Chapter Xuanhuan, the god Jin by mountain stream. Amidst jagged rocks, a boy in black held down a beetle. Its shell was a dark, gleaming black metallic in sheen, resembling a cross between a crab and a rhinoceros beetle. The boy's other hand held a dagger.
With practiced ease, he severed the still struggling beetle's leg at the joint, pried open the shell, and revealed the pale, tender meat within. Without hesitation, the boy ate it like a crab, sucking the meat from the leg first.
Then tossing larger chunks of flesh into his mouth, he chewed a few times before swallowing. Hunting black beetle. No beast soul obtained. Consuming black beetle flesh. Randomly gains 0 to 10 gene points. Consuming black beetle flesh gene points plus ever.
A strange voice accompanied by a stream of information. Hansen, unevolved, rank known, lifespan 200. God body evolution requirements 100 gene points. Genes possessed 79 gene points. Beast soul possessed none.
For over 30 consecutive black armored beetles, I haven't gained a single gene point. It seems I've consumed too much beetle meat. It no longer promotes my physical evolution. I haven't gained a single gene point. At this rate,
when will I ever complete my first evolution and gain a rank? A look of frustration crossed Hansen's face. More than a century ago, humanity achieved a remarkably high level of technological advancement, finally mastering spatial teleportation technology.
However, upon attempting teleportation, humanity was shocked to discover they weren't transported to the past or the future. They couldn't even teleport from one planet to another.
On the other side of the spatial teleportation channel lay a completely different world, a world utterly beyond human comprehension. In this world, all technological means became useless.
Assault rifles were less effective than steel knives, missiles and nuclear weapons won't detonate. Reduced to mere scrap metal, all machinery and electronic devices ceased to function. Terrifying creatures roamed this world. Humanity,
once at the apex of the food chain due to intelligence and technological prowess, became the weakest prey. Yet, when humans in this world killed relatively weaker creatures and consumed their flesh and blood,
they were astonished to discover their bodies underwent dramatic changes, evolving rapidly in ways science couldn't explain. Even more surprising, as their bodies evolved in this world, their lifespans increased.
This discovery sent shockwaves through the entire human race. Over the next 100 years, more and more humans entered this world, which they called the sanctuary of the gods. They gradually became familiar with its rules, hunted its creatures,
and evolved their bodies. The greater the degree of physical evolution, the longer their lifespan became. Theoretically, if they could continue to evolve indefinitely, immortality wasn't impossible. Humans couldn't choose the bodies they were born with,
but they could choose to transform to pursue the ultimate genetic mysteries. In this world, technology was completely useless. The only thing that could help humanity was the most primitive form of combat martial arts, ancient martial,
which had become practically extinct in modern society, unexpectedly flourished here. Various ancient martial arts were rediscovered and, after more than a century of transmission and development, formed new schools of martial arts.
New styles of ancient martial arts also emerged. Besides ancient martial arts, the sanctuary of the gods offered another powerful aid to humanity: beast souls. Hunting the creatures of the sanctuary of the gods offered a chance to obtain their beast souls.
These beast souls took many bizarre forms. Some could be summoned to fight for humans, while others could transform into armor, weapons, or other objects. Still others could even aid in transformation, allowing humans to change into terrifying beasts.
Soaring celestial birds. However, neither ancient martial arts nor beast souls held much relevance for Hansen. Even in a technologically advanced society, cutting-edge technology is concentrated in the hands of a select few.
Hansen completed his unified compulsory education, and at 16 he graduated his coming-of-age ceremony and entered the sanctuary of the gods, having only learned the basic introductory new ancient martial arts common to everyone in this era.
Beast souls were expensive. Even the lowest grade ones were beyond Hansen's means. Without powerful ancient martial arts, the aid of a beast soul, or even access to advanced human-made alloy weapons, Hansen struggled in the sanctuary of the gods.
He could only hunt low-level creatures, consuming their flesh to evolve his body. But after consuming large quantities of low-level flesh, the effect on his bodily evolution diminished significantly.
Hansen had been in the sanctuary for over 3 months, and still hadn't managed a single bodily evolution. He wasn't without attempts at hunting stronger creatures, but even the weakest of the primitive grade creatures, the copper-toothed beast,
forcing him to recuperate for almost a month before returning to the sanctuary. By now, Hansen had hunted almost every low-level creature in the vicinity, and consuming their flesh was no longer beneficial.
Without risking the hunt for higher-level creatures, he didn't know when he'd be able to evolve his body. As Hansen pondered whether to try hunting a copper-toothed beast again, his peripheral vision caught something emerging from the mountain stream.
He initially thought it was a black beetle, but immediately reconsidered. Black beetles had dark shells, but what he saw was a dazzling golden yellow. Hansen focused his gaze on the creature crawling from the stream. It was indeed a black beetle.
But unlike any he'd seen before, it was the size of a basketball, a golden yellow color, like a work of art carved from gold. Its eyes, like crystalline yellow quartz, were so captivating that one wouldn't readily perceive it as a living creature.
What a strange black beetle, thought Han Sen, as he stared at the creature that looked like it was sculpted from gold. Had hunted countless black beetles during his time here, and knew them well. Their eyesight was poor, but their hearing was remarkably acute.
As long as he remained still, even at close range, they wouldn't detect his presence. Han Sen stared motionlessly at the strange golden black beetle, never expecting it to crawl towards him, almost without thinking.
As the golden black beetle crawled next to Han Sen, he pressed down on its carapace with lightning speed. With his other hand, his dagger expertly sliced into its vulnerable joints. In a fluid motion he made 6 cuts,
cleanly severing all 6 legs of the golden black beetle. Then, while the golden black beetle struggled to turn over, he stabbed it in a white mark below its abdomen. With a twist of the dagger, the golden black beetle instantly stopped moving.
Obtaining the Godblood Black Beetle Soul Shard. Consuming Godblood Black Beetle flesh can randomly grant Zor to 10 God genes. Chapter Allos and Tune. The Butt Madman. Han Sen was stunned by the sudden voice in his head.
Almost unable to believe it was real, a Godblood level soul shard. It was simply unbelievable. Creatures within the God's shelter are divided into 4 types: ordinary creatures, primitive creatures, mutatic,
and Godblood creatures. Consuming the flesh of creatures of different ranks grants different levels of genes. Currently, humanity has discovered a total of 4 shelter spaces. Each time the body evolves, one can enter the next space.
The stronger the genes used during evolution, the higher the chance of survival in the next space. Godblood level soul shards, needless to say, are the top tier among soul shards. A single Godblood soul shard can fetch an astronomical price.
When Han Sen finally reacted, his hand trembled as he held the dagger, pried open the carapace of the Godblood Black Beetle, and cut out a piece of the jelly-like flesh inside, stuffing it into his mouth. Consumed Godblood Black Beetle flesh.
Gained 1 point of God gene. Feeling the heat flowing down as he swallowed the flesh, and hearing the voice in his head, he was almost moved to tears. Without a second thought, he grabbed a claw of the Godblood Black Beetle, sucked out the meat inside,
and swallowed it all at once. He felt waves of heat surging through his body, his blood almost boiling. Eating the Godblood Black Beetle wasn't much different from eating a crab. After sucking the meat from all 6 claws clean,
Han Sen used his knife to cut and eat the meat from inside the carapace. Consumed Godblood Black Beetle flesh, gained 1 point of God gene. Consumed Godblood Black Beetle flesh, gained 1 point of God gene. The continuous
strange sounds echoed in Han Sen's mind, making him feel as happy as if he were floating on clouds. Han Sen was happily cutting away when, suddenly, his dagger struck something hard, making a metallic clang that startled him.
The black beetle was like a crab. It looked hard, but the inside of the shell was all tender meat, without even bones. How could there possibly be metal inside? Moving the dagger aside and following the cut, he pulled the meat to the side,
revealing a corner of black metal. Sen cut away the surrounding flesh, and soon the black metal was fully exposed. Initially, Han Sen thought it was metal, but after completely removing it,
he discovered it was a black crystal the size and shape of a pigeon's egg. Han Sen held the crystal in his hand, feeling nothing unusual. It felt like a smooth, beautiful black pebble, but upon closer inspection,
countless shimmering stars seemed to evolve within the crystal, unbelievably beautiful. This was the lowest level of the sanctuary, where even primitive level creatures were rare, let alone Godblood creatures.
How could a Godblood Black Beetle suddenly appear? And had never heard of black beetles, such insignificant creatures, having Godblood counterparts. Moreover, this Godblood Black Beetle was incredibly weak.
Could the appearance of this Godblood Black Beetle be related to this black crystal? Han Sen pondered. He couldn't figure it out for the moment, so Han Sen ate the remaining Godblood Black Beetle meat,
stuffing himself until his stomach was round and almost bursting. In total he gained 7 God genes. 7 God genes in the past. Han Sen wouldn't have dared to dream of it, with his background, no matter how hard he tried.
He could hardly defeat Godblood creatures. Forget Godblood level, even with primitive level creatures, he had to risk his life, and the chances of success were pitifully low. The remaining Godblood Black Beetle shell was also extremely valuable material.
Han Sen collected the claws and put both the upper and lower shells into his pocket. The shells of ordinary black beetles were almost worthless, but the shell of a Godblood Black Beetle, even if boiled into soup, should increase a couple of God genes.
This was Han Sen's first time eating a Godblood creature. He should have gotten 10 God genes, but he only received 7 after eating the meat, meaning the remaining 3 were in the shell. If he were to sell this shell,
the money he'd get would be enough to buy a pretty decent private aircraft within the left-spin interstellar alliance. Back at the steel armor shelter, walking down the street, people everywhere pointed and whispered at him. Some were gloating, others mocking.
But no one approached Han Sen. Everyone in the steel armor shelter looked at Han Sen like he was a monster normally. even if someone entered the shelter penniless, as long as their skills weren't too bad.
They could find a few other newcomers to hunt some lone primitive creatures, and they wouldn't end up as miserably as Han Sen. But no one in the steel armor shelter was willing, or dared, to associate with Han Sen more than 3 months ago.
When Han Sen first entered the God's Shelter world and ventured out of the shelter for the first time, he had barely rounded a corner of the city wall when he was startled to find a snow-white, 4-legged, human-sized unicorn wolf standing with its back to him.
Almost without hesitation, Han Sen grabbed his dagger and stabbed the unicorn wolf's rear end viciously. That stab made Han Sen and Xuan the biggest laughingstock in the entire steel armor shelter. That's right.
The white unicorn wolf wasn't a creature like Han Sen, it was a human who had used beast soul transformation. Moreover, Xuanhuan was the most powerful and influential woman in the steel armor shelter.
A woman who was very likely to complete her first evolution with god blood genes and embark on the evolutionary path. A greenhorn fresh to the steel armor shelter poked Xuanhuan's butt, becoming the biggest joke in the entire shelter.
Though no one dared mention it to her face. Behind her back, everyone was practically rolling on the floor with laughter. Madman became Han Sen's infamous nickname throughout the steel armor shelter. Enraged and humiliated,
Xuanhuan issued a stern warning: anyone who dared associate with Han Sen would be her enemy. Few in the steel armor shelter possessed the power to oppose Xuanhuan, and even if they did, no one would risk antagonizing her for Han Sen, an unknown buttman.
This is why Han Sen's life was so miserable. But he didn't blame Xuanhuan, it was his fault. He was incredibly nervous during his first time in the shelter world.
And seeing the alien creatures and transformed humans for the first time led to his unforgivable mistake. Han Sen was already incredibly grateful that Xuanhuan hadn't killed him in her rage.
Han Sen's only relief was that humans were randomly and uncontrollably teleported into the God's Shelter world. The steel armor shelter contained any of his friends or family, and no one knew his real name. Chapter Zozan 3 Godblood Armor.
Han Sen returned to his room, lit a fire and boiled a pot of water. He tossed the claws and shell of the godblood black beetle into the pot. Currently, Han Sen lacked the tools and knowledge for other methods.
So he could only use this primitive way to process the godblood black beetle shell, boiling out the genetic essence within. Godblood level carapace doesn't yield its essence in just a couple of hours after covering the pot.
Han Sen took out the black crystal and examined it closely, but no matter how he looked, he could discern anything unusual. Suddenly, Han Sen's gaze fell upon a green, scaled beast, about the size of a raccoon, in a cage in the corner of the room.
Like the black beetle, the green, scaled beast was an ordinary creature. Han Sen used to hunt them, cook them, and consume them to enhance his genes. But after eating too many, they no longer improved his genes, had left this one.
Neglecting it, and hadn't realized it was still alive, he pulled the weak, nearly lifeless green, scaled beast from its cage. Han Sen hesitated, then brought the black crystal to its mouth, preparing to insert it, but the dying green scaled beast,
upon seeing the black crystal, somehow found the strength to flick out its tongue, wrap it around the crystal, and gulp it down. This black crystal is truly extraordinary. Dumbfounded, after swallowing the crystal,
the green scaled beast seemed much more energetic, its strength returning. It clawed frantically and even tried to bite Han Sen's hand holding its neck. Han Sen tossed the green scaled beast back into its cage and observed it closely. Within moments,
the creature which hadn't eaten in days was fully restored to its former vitality, clawing rushing about the cage as wild and energetic as when Han Sen had first captured it. Han Sen sat opposite the cage, watching the green-scaled beast's every move.
A growing suspicion forming in his mind. If his suspicion was correct, he might have truly obtained something incredible, something even more alluring than god-blood creatures. But Han Sen was afraid his guess was wrong.
So he anxiously stared at the green-scale beast, hoping to see the change he longed for. Han Sen was so nervous that he stared with wide eyes for a long time, until the aroma of bone broth wafted from the pot,
making him feel a pang of hunger. His stomach was empty and uncomfortable. Looking at the time, nearly 24 hours had passed. Han Sen hurriedly got up to check the black beetle shell in the pot. The golden shell had been simmered to a pale gold,
and the broth shimmered with a bright golden luster. The captivating aroma made Han Sen, whose stomach was already empty, swallow involuntarily, just as he was about to take a bowl to serve the soup.
He heard the sound of iron bars snapping from the cage holding the green scale beast. Han Sen quickly turned to look, and saw the green scale beast had bitten through one of the cage bars, its head already sticking out.
The originally light green scales on its body had all turned a deep, inky green. Its teeth were sharper and more pointed, and the tips of its 4 claws were like iron hooks as it tried to claw its way out of the cage. Han Sen was both shocked and delighted.
He quickly drew the dagger from his waist, rushed to the cage in 2 strides, and stabbed it into the green scale beast's lower abdomen where its head was stuck. He twisted the blade several times. The green scale beast struggled for a moment, then fell still.
Hunting primitive grade creature greenscale beast. No soul obtained. Consuming primitive greenscale beast flesh may yield 0 to 10 primitive genes. A strange sound echoed in Han Sen's mind, leaving him stunned. Primitive grade greenscale beast.
Primitive grade greenscale beast. That crystal really can make these creatures evolve. Han Sen was overwhelmed by immense joy, momentarily speechless. After a long while, Han Sen suddenly jumped up, used his dagger to cut open the greenscale beast's abdomen,
and pulled out the crystal, about the size of a pigeon's egg. He didn't bother to wipe off the blood, kissing it twice before carefully cleaning it and holding it like a precious treasure.
That blood god Black Beetle truly became blood god level because of this crystal. If the green-scaled beast continues to evolve, could it also evolve to blood god level? Han Sen almost didn't dare to think further, because it was simply too astonishing.
Han Sen's hands trembled as he excitedly held the crystal. He bit his tongue hard, yelping in pain before realizing that this was not a dream. After a period of excited exhilaration, Han Sen carefully stored the crystal away,
then quickly devoured the beetle broth in the pot, gaining a little more blood god gene, bringing his total to 8 points. Unfortunately, Han Sen only had the simplest tools, and using this primitive method,
he couldn't completely extract the essence of the genes from the shell. Being able to increase his blood god genes even slightly was already quite good. Han Sen remembered that when he hunted the blood god Black Beetle,
he'd also obtained a blood god level Black Beetle spirit beast soul. He quickly checked the data.
Han Sen, unevolved, rank none.
Lifespan 200, body evolution requirement 100 genes. Genes possessed 79 genes.
Say god genes.
Possessing a beast soul.
A godblood level Black Beetle beast soul. Armor type. Han Sen wondered what the armor formed from the godblood Black Beetle would look like. With a thought, a golden shadow shot out from the void.
Taking the form of the golden Black Beetle, the golden Black Beetle flew to Han Sen's chest, instantly transforming into a golden liquid that spread across his entire body. In the blink of an eye, it enveloped Han Sen's entire body, including his head.
Full of explosive power and dynamic impact, encased Han Sen's entire body. It resembled a Gothic European suit of armor imbued with modern aerodynamic technology, appearing artistically exquisite.
The armor exuded a sense of power and speed, making Han Sen appear taller and stronger, as if his whole body was filled with explosive power. The metallic sheen of the armor, like gold itself, was both magnificent and robust.
It resembled the golden cloth of a gold saint. Unlike the golden cloth, this beast soul armor completely enveloped Han Sen's head and body, with only minor gaps where the armor plates overlapped at the joints, similar to the Black Beetle itself.
This was the only weakness of the Black Beetle beast soul armor. Han Sen moved slightly. Instead of feeling weighed down or hindered, he felt lighter and more energetic. Truly worthy of a godblood level beast soul armor, Han Sen thought joyfully.
It's far more magnificent than any of the primitive level beast soul armors I've seen in the steel armor shelter. Before, he had envied those wearing primitive level beast soul armors. He never imagined he would one day possess a godblood level beast soul armor.
Chapter 4. The Old House. Zhao Yalong, president of the 8 group, completed his 3rd evolution, ascending to the 4th god's sanctuary space, becoming the 83rd human in history to enter the 4th god's sanctuary space.
His lifespan reached 500 years, and he attained the rank of demigod Lang, a genius youth from the Recot star system. Ascended to the 2nd god's sanctuary space with 100 mutation genes.
Achieving a lifespan of 300 years and the rank of evolutionary, Senator Hemingway, yesterday hunted and killed the demigod level divine blood creature, Ocean Star, becoming the first powerhouse to kill a demigod-level divine blood creature.
According to authoritative experts' predictions, humanity will see its first form evolver within 10 years, advancing into the 5th god sanctuary space. Han Sen emerged from the steel armor shelter, the virtual screen displaying today's news, evolutionary.
Transcendent. With that black crystal, I will definitely reach that stage and even go further. Han Sen clenched his fist, strode out of the teleportation station, boarded a maglev train, and headed home. He had just reached his doorstep.
Before even entering the courtyard, when he heard a sharp, mean woman's voice from inside, Luo Sulan, are you trying to seize our Han family's old house? Let me tell you, this house was left by our parents, my elder brother and I, we all have a share.
Now that my elder brother is gone, we Han family people won't bully you, a widow. My brother's share will be given to you, but if you want to take it all, we absolutely won't agree. Yes, the old house is our parents' legacy, and we, their children.
Why should you have it all? You've lived there for over 20 years. Taking a huge advantage. It's time to divide the inheritance. A middle-aged man's voice followed. Second brother is right, you've occupied the old house for over 20 years.
We won't count the rent, but the house is part of the inheritance and it must be divided. A rather effeminate man with a soft voice chimed in. We've already had a lawyer appraise it. The old house is worth over 3 million now. 3 families.
That's $1 million each. Either you give us $1 million and the house is yours, or we sell it and divide the money 3 ways. We're flexible, sister-in-law. You decide. This time, it was a young woman's voice. Second sister-in-law is right.
Now that big brother is gone, we won't bully you, a widow with children. We'll do whatever you say. Give money. Sell the house, we don't care. The initially sharp and sarcastic woman spoke again. Second brother. Third sister. Pressuring me is useless.
You know our situation. Where would we get 2 million? A sorrowful woman spoke up. Then sell the house. The sharp and sarcastic woman immediately interjected. Where will we live? Hansen just graduated.
And Yana will be starting school soon. The sorrowful woman said, Sister-in-law, that's not right. Is your family the only one struggling? Your Hansen and Hangyan are only in the unified compulsory education system.
My Hanhao attends a private school. The tuition makes my hair turn white every year. Third sister is right. Everyone's struggling who doesn't need money. Selling the house is the best solution. Everyone gets money to manage their affairs.
And you'll have money to support Yan's education, the effeminate man said. So, you either give us the money or sell the house, sister-in-law. You choose, the young woman said coldly. Hansen, listening outside, flew into a rage.
He burst through the door to find his mother weeping, holding his younger sister. Hanyan 5-year-old Hanyan cowered in her mother's arms, her small face and large eyes filled with terror. Beside them stood 2 men and 2 women,
each with a cold smile on their faces. You have the nerve to show your faces here and demand the old house. Hansen pointed at the fat woman, her face a mask of avarice and cruelty, his voice thick with anger. Auntie.
When you embezzled tens of millions from the company, who was it that begged and pleaded with my father to cover for you? Hansen, what are you saying? Don't you dare slander us, a thin man with a soft, high-pitched voice retorted.
Pointing at Hansen, and you, uncle, Hansen continued, his anger rising as he pointed at the thin, middle-aged man. You misused company funds for your investments, losing millions. Who was it who came crawling to my house, begging my father for help, and you?
Hansen turned to another obese middle-aged man, his voice ringing with fury. You were drowning in gambling debts, almost driven to suicide. Who bailed you out? You were nearly killed by your mistress' husband. Who saved your life?
Xingyu Group wanted to swallow our company whole. If my father hadn't clashed with them, he wouldn't have died under such suspicious circumstances. Hansen seethed, glaring at the 4 of them. But you, my father was barely in the ground.
And you were already selling the company to Xingyu Group. Did you even give a single cent to my orphan mother and me? Who paid for your wedding houses? Were they cheaper than the old house? Did you ever take care of grandpa and grandma while they were alive?
And now you have the audacity to demand a share of the old house. Don't talk nonsense, Han Li, the second uncle, stubbornly insisted. It was all Big Brother's fault. The company was Dad's, but he made all the decisions. We have a share in the company.
And it's only right we used its money. Second brother's right. Han Yumei, his aunt, shrieked. Your father was too controlling. We were only taking back what was rightfully ours. You can scream and shout all you want, but we'll have the house or the money. If not,
well, see you in court. You'll lose no matter where you take it. It's all your father's fault, the group echoed, their voices a chorus of blame directed at Hansen's deceased father. Hansen trembled with rage, his heart aching for his father.
His father had started with a small company worth only a couple of million, building it up brick by brick. He had constantly bailed them out, almost bankrupting the company multiple times, and ultimately died under mysterious circumstances. Now,
even his wife and child were being bullied by these ingrates, his father used to say. Were family no need for petty calculations, a statement that now felt like a cruel irony, if they were truly short of money, facing insurmountable difficulty.
Hansen would have accepted it, but looking at the private aircraft they arrived in, each worth millions, the money from selling the company was at least over 100 million, all landing in their pockets.
Not a single cent shared with Hansen and his mother and sister. No matter how short of money they were, they couldn't possibly be without $1 million. Chapter 1005 Swift Mantis. Han Yumi and Han Lei created havoc in Hansen's home.
Finally leaving with a harsh threat, give them the money or sell the house within a month. Otherwise, they would see them in court. It's all my fault. I couldn't even keep our old home. Lu Sulan hugged Han Yan and sobbed uncontrollably.
Lo Sulan was a gentle woman. When Hansen's father was alive, she was treated like a princess. Sheltered from chores, she didn't even know how to sweep the floor. After Hansen's father passed away, Luo Sulan managed to raise her 2 children.
Hansen felt deeply for his mother's struggles. Mom, don't worry. Dad's gone, but I'm here. I won't let them take our house. Rest for a while. I'll ask Uncle Zhang for advice. Hansen called the former company's legal counsel, also his father's good friend.
Lawyer Zhang, Uncle Zhang, it's Xiao Sen. Is your back still aching? I have a legal matter to consult you on. It's like this. After Hansen hung up, his face was grim.
Now he could confirm that Han Yumei and the others weren't lying. They did have a share of inheritance rights. If they really went to court, the outcome would be as Han Yumei said, pay up or sell the house. Those were the only 2 options. Xiao Sen.
Luo Sulan anxiously asked Hansen. Don't worry, Mom. Hansen reassured her with a smile. I've already talked to Uncle Zhang. There's a solution. Just focus on taking care of Xuanhuan. Leave this to me. No one will take the house.
Luo Sulan breathed a sigh of relief. That's good. After a night's rest at home, Han Sen took an early morning train to the teleportation station and entered the world of God's sanctuary. He appeared in his room in the steel armor sanctuary.
Humans teleporting into God's sanctuary always arrive in a designated private room. Only the owner can enter, and no one else can access it by any means, unless given permission by the owner.
And entering the second God's sanctuary space. This room served as Han Sen's home within God's sanctuary. Currently, Han Sen had neither power nor influence to save his house.
He had only 1 month to pay 2 million to secure his family's old home. Though he was extremely reluctant, without power or influence, it was the only way to save the house.
2 million Xuanhuan coins was an astronomical sum for a 16-year-old who just graduated from integrated compulsory education. The old Han Sen wouldn't have earned 2 million in a year, let alone a month. But now things were different. In fact,
if Han Sen hadn't already boiled the blood god Black Beetle's carapace into soup, just the carapace itself would have fetched 1 or 2 million. He no longer possessed god blood level carapace.
But Han Sen still had the black crystal capable of evolving creatures. With that, 2 million credits were nothing. Looking at the remains of the primitive, grade green scale beast on the ground, Han Sen hesitated for a moment before picking it up.
He skinned and boned it with his dagger, then dried the flesh over the fire to make jerky, storing it in his waist pouch as provisions. He first needed to capture a creature to evolve using the crystal, then sell the resulting high-grade flesh for money.
Now that he had the god-level beast soul armor, he could hunt primitive grade creatures. There was no need to hunt ordinary ones. Evolving an ordinary creature to primitive grade took a full day, and primitive grade creatures didn't fetch a high price.
2 million credits weren't a small sum. Han Sen needed to evolve at least a mutated creature to get that much. Primitive grade creatures lived about 10 kilometers from the steel armor shelter, a place Han Sen hadn't dared to venture before. Now,
things were different. However, Han Sen's target wasn't the weakest primitive grade creature near the shelter. The copper-toothed beast. He had chosen the Xuanhuan mantis, a creature that frequently appeared in the Falling Wind Valley.
While the Xuanhuan mantis was only a primitive grade creature with a relatively fragile body easily killed by a regular alloy dagger if the vital point was hit, its incredible speed made it impossible for most humans to catch.
Its saw-like forearms could easily cleave through human bones. A single strike from its mantis arms would leave one crippled or dead, deterring most from hunting it. For Han Sen, however, the Xuanhuan mantis was an ideal choice.
Being merely a primitive grade creature, it wouldn't be able to break through his god-level beast soul armor. As long as the mantis couldn't harm him, he could easily kill it, most importantly, after severing its claws arms. But
the mantis would be virtually defenseless, yet still alive. Han Sen could then keep it in his room, evolve it to mutated grade with the black crystal, and then slaughter it to sell its flesh. Of course, if he was lucky enough to kill a few more Gale mantises.
And even luckier to obtain a Gale mantis beast soul. That would be even better. The Gale mantis beast soul was a weapon type, which could transform into a Gale sawtooth blade, a serrated long dagger, a weapon type Han Sen was quite proficient with.
Although the Gale sawtooth blade was only a primitive grade weapon type beast soul, its destructive power and sharpness were top tier among primitive grade beast souls, and it was not inferior in sharpness to some mutated grade weapon beast souls. However,
because hunting Gale mantises was too dangerous, few people ever ventured into Fallen Wind Valley, so few people had ever obtained a Gale sawtooth blade. When one occasionally appeared for sale, it would fetch an exorbitant price.
If he could get lucky enough to obtain a Gale mantis beast soul, Han Sen wouldn't need to rely on selling mutated creature flesh. Selling the Gale mantis beast soul alone would be enough to get him 2 million. He arrived at the edge of Fallen Wind Valley.
The number of humans dwindling as he approached. By the time he reached the valley, there were no human sightings at all. Very few humans ever dared to set foot here. Han Sen didn't dare to go too deep, so he found a concealed spot.
Summoned his blood god Black Beetle beast soul, transforming it into golden armor to protect his body. Then took a deep breath and crept into Fallen Wind Valley. Han Sen didn't dare to move too fast. Fallen Wind Valley was densely wooded.
The wild grass is taller than a man, with gusts of wind constantly blowing through, causing the leaves and grass to sway incessantly, making it difficult to see the hidden green Gale mantises. A moment of carelessness could result in a bone-shattering attack.
Chapter the with an armor in hand, the world is mine. Suddenly, Han Sen's eyes narrowed. He saw a green object, more than a foot long, resembling a blade of grass, clinging to the grass, unless one looked carefully.
It would easily be mistaken for an ordinary blade of grass. No one would imagine it could be a Gale mantis, capable of cleaving a human skull in a single blow. Carefully observing the sickle-shaped, serrated forms of the Xuanhuan mantis.
A deep green color contrasting sharply with its fragile form. Unlike its delicate body, these mantis arms gleamed with a metallic sheen. Their hardness certainly no less than the highest grade alpha alloy.
Han Sen's luck held. He spotted the swift-winged mantis before it detected him. Slowly, he approached the creature's position, mentally calculating the likely distance at which he'd be discovered, reaching a distance of about 2 meters.
Han Sen dared not get any closer, fearing that being detected would ruin his chances for a surprise attack. Gripping his dagger tightly, Han Sen burst from the undergrowth, slashing at the swift-winged mantis waist with a swift, brutal strike.
But Han Sen had underestimated the mantis' speed and reflexes. The instant he emerged, the swift-winged mantis detected his presence, its wings unfurled, launching it several meters into the air, with a graceful glide, swift as a gust of.
It was upon Han Sen in an instant, its mantis arms cleaving down towards his head, leaving him no time to react. Horrified, Han Sen instinctively stepped back, yet the mantis arm still struck his head. A clang of metal on metal echoed.
And Han Sen felt a slight tap, like a pebble hitting his helmet. He experienced only mild discomfort, not a single mark marred his goblet, grade beast soul armor. Overwhelmed with joy, Han Sen seized the opportunity.
Slashing his dagger across the swift-winged mantis' slender waist, cleaving it neatly in two, greenish-blue mantis blood splattered Han Sen, but Han Sen paid it no mind, blissfully listening to the voice in his head. Slaying a primitive grade creature.
Swift-winged mantis. Consuming the swift-winged mantis may randomly yield 0 to 10 points of primitive origin. Haha, with this armor, I'm invincible, I'll kill whomever I please, and no one will be able to harm me.
Even mutated creatures are nothing to fear. Han Sen touched the helmet where the mantis had struck. Finding it unmarked, his heart throbbed with excitement. A surge of boldness filled Han Sen. No longer hiding, he strode into Falling Wind Valley.
Dagger in hand, instantly alarming several swift-winged mantises that attacked, but their blades, striking the blood beast soul armor, failed to harm Han Sen in the slightest. Instead, he seized the opportunity, dispatching each mantis with a swift, decisive blow.
4 or 5 swift-winged mantises were slain. Hunting primitive, level creature swift-winged mantis. No beast soul obtained. Consumption may randomly grant 0 to 10 points of primitive genes. The continuous sound echoed in Han Sen's mind.
He charged deeper into Falling Wind Valley, slaughtering over 20 swift-winged mantises in a short time. Su Xiaoqiao arrived at Falling Wind Valley, inwardly lamenting her bad luck.
Her parents owned a transplanetary corporation and held both celebrity and noble titles. Yet she had been randomly assigned to this wretched steel armor shelter. Despite their inquiries, they couldn't find a single friend or connection within the shelter.
To obtain a noble title, Su Xiaoqiao had to join Xuanhuan's forces, hoping to accumulate 100 points of mutated genes to become an evoluer and receive the Alliance's noble title. The left-spin Interstellar Alliance offered 2 titles: Celebrity,
obtainable by any transcender through certification by the relevant Alliance institutions, and Noble, obtainable by those achieving evolution through mutated genes, including mutated genes themselves and subsequent Alliance certification.
Another route is through noble titles. Anyone who achieves a genetic upgrade to or including mutated genes can be certified by the Alliance and receive a noble title, whether it's a celebrity title or a noble title.
Both bring significant benefits within the Star League. Most importantly, they symbolize status and position. Class consciousness is increasingly prevalent in the League. Without even a noble title, many in high society disdain to interact with you.
Making even business dealings feel inferior, Su Xiaoqiao didn't dare dream of a high-ranking title like a blood god or noble.
He would be satisfied with obtaining a common noble title by accumulating 100 points of mutated genes for a single evolution, his parents' expectation as well. But obtaining 100 points of mutated genes alone was incredibly difficult.
Although he brought a considerable sum to the steel armor shelter, money could buy common grade and primitive grade bioflesh, but mutated grade creatures were rarely sold, only those like Xuanhuan, aiming for god gene evolution.
A grade bioflesh, the price, however, wasn't money, but service. Su Xiaoqiao now ran errands for Xuanhuan, venturing to places most people wouldn't go, searching for traces of blood god creatures or mutated creatures.
He would report his findings to Xuanhuan, who would then lead a hunting party in return. Su Xiaoqiao would receive a share of the spoils: mutated grade bioflesh. Su Xiaoqiao had been searching for over a month.
He hadn't even found a trace of a mutated creature, let alone a blood god creature. His supplies were dwindling, forcing him to return to the steel armor shelter. Passing by Falling Wind Valley,
he decided to investigate. Perhaps this neglected place had nurtured mutated creatures. But upon cautiously entering Falling Wind Valley, Su Xiaoqiao felt something was amiss. There were no swift-winged mantises, not a single one.
After walking several hundred meters into the valley, he only found some scattered traces, but not a single swift-winged mantis. Had someone cleared out the swift-winged mantises from Falling Wind Valley? Was it Brother Quan or the God Emperor? No.
Although the grass was disheveled, showing signs of combat, a large force wouldn't leave such minimal traces. Suspicion growing, Su Xiaoqiao quickened his pace, determined to uncover the truth. Indeed, along the way,
Su Xiaoqiao saw many green bloodstains from swift-winged mantises. Following the trail, he rounded a cliff face, and the sight that met his eyes left him speechless. Beside a small mountain of wind mantis corpses, a figure shimmering with gold stood.
In the sunlight, it looked like a machine warrior crafted entirely from gold. Chapter 1007 Gold Coins. Big brother, did you kill all these winged mantises by yourself? Su Xiaoqiao looked around, besides the person completely encased in golden armor.
She couldn't see anyone else. The blood on these wind mantises hadn't completely clotted, clearly indicating they had died recently. Su Xiaoqiao found it hard to believe that so many wind mantises could be killed by one person in such a short time.
While wind mantises are only primitive-grade creatures, their mantis arms are incredibly sharp, and they're very fast. Even many individuals with maxed-out primitive genes would hesitate to provoke them. After all, the human body has too many vital points.
A careless strike from a wind mantis hidden in the grass could be fatal or cause serious injury. Nobody wants to take that risk. There were at least 30 or 40 wind mantises slaughtered here. To kill this many,
even Xuanhuan would need a few skilled companions. Su Xiaoqiao couldn't believe, no matter how hard she tried, that a single person could slaughter so many wind mantises in such a short time. Want them. 1,000 Xuan coins.
Han Sen was worried about all the wind mantis corpses. Had been so engrossed in the hunt that he'd forgotten he couldn't possibly eat all this wind mantis meat by himself. And even if he could, only the first few would have any effect.
Eating more after that wouldn't help. 1,000 Xuan coins each. Are you serious? Su Xiaoqiao stared at Han Sen in astonishment. Primitive-grade creatures, while many can hunt them, are still in short supply.
Especially a creature like the wind mantis, a primitive-grade creature most people have never even eaten. After all, human energy is limited.
The flesh of the same type of primitive creature can only provide a portion of primitive genes. Eating more won't have any effect. You have to eat other types of primitive creatures to continue increasing your primitive genes.
Anyone with some financial means will spend some money to buy creatures they haven't eaten before, in order to quickly reach the maximum gene value of 100 points.
Relatively easy to hunt rare primitive gene creatures sell for a few hundred yuan each. However, rarer and harder to kill species, like the swift mantis, sell for 2,000 to 3,000 yuan each and are still in short supply.
Su Xiaoqiao calculated that at a price of 1,000 yuan per mantis, he could easily triple his money just by transporting these swift mantis corpses back. That's right, 1,000 ZL coins each. Han Sen nodded affordably.
Han Sen wasn't unaware that swift mantises could sell for 2,000 to 3,000 yuan each, but with so many corpses and lacking transportation, carrying them all back himself would require countless trips. If he left,
the remaining swift mantopses might be stolen by the time he returned. Moreover, Han Sen didn't want to waste the time and energy on it. He had more important things to do.
1,000 yuan was an acceptable price for him. It was like acting as a wholesaler, leaving a profit margin for retailers. Good. I'll take all these swift mantises. How many are there in total? Su Xiaoqiao readily agreed.
These swift mantises were more than just a source of income for him. Primitive creatures like the swift mantis, which ordinary people rarely have the chance to eat, could be perfect for building relationships.
As long as someone's primitive genes weren't maxed out, no one would refuse such a valuable gift. There are 43 in total. I'll give you a discount, 40,000. Han Sen had just casually asked.
Not expecting this seemingly unremarkable fellow to be a tycoon, readily buying the entire lot, Su Xiaoqiao pulled out his wallet, handing Han Sen 10 $10,000 bills. Brother, let's call these gale mantises 50,000.
The remaining 50,000 is a deposit. If you have anything else good in the future, come find me. We can negotiate the price. If you have any mutated creature flesh, I'm willing to pay a high price.
100,000. A concern for Su Xiaoqiao. A single dinner party often cost him more. This person, capable of single-handedly killing so many gale mantises, possessed unfathomable strength and a high likelihood of killing mutated creatures.
If he could buy mutated creature flesh from him, what was 120,000? Even 10 times that amount wouldn't be too much. I did expect you to be a big tycoon, Han Sen said, unceremoniously accepting the 100,000.
With a slight surprise. To be honest, I'm so poor I only have money left. Brother, if you have any mutated creature flesh to sell, you absolutely must think of me. Price is absolutely not a problem. Su Xiaoqiao.
Afraid Han Sen won't give him the opportunity, spoke forcefully. Okay, give me your name and room number. I'll find you if I have something good. Seeing Su Xiaoqiao's generosity, Han Sen, who planned to evolve a mutated creature to sell,
considered Xiaoqiao a good option. After all, the fewer people who saw the evolved mutated creatures, the better. Selling to one person was far better than selling in the plaza in front of everyone.
And selling to someone who wasn't short of money meant no worries about the price. Brother, my name is Su Xiaoqiao. That's my real name. My room number in the steel armor shelter is 1046. Brother, what's your name? What's your room number? Su Xiaoqiao asked.
Buy for coin. I only recognize this. He stuffed the money into his pocket. Prepare the money. When I have something good, I'll go to 1046 to find you. Han Sen waved at Su Xiaoqiao and left Lufeng Valley. After what happened to his father,
Han Sen didn't want much to do with other people. He just wanted to take care of his mother and sister, and do what he wanted to do. He didn't care much about anything else. By gee, I'll be waiting for you. You absolutely have to come, don't worry.
A problem, Su Xiaoqiao shouted at Han Sen's back, waving her hand. After Han Sen left, Su Xiaoqiao calmed down and exclaimed, "Damn it! So many Gale Mantises? How am I supposed to get all of these back by myself?"
Su Xiaoqiao thought it over and decided to carry some back in her bag herself, leaving the rest to be carried by a few people she knew well. Fortunately, Lufeng Valley was usually deserted by the time Su Xiaoqiao and the others returned.
Not a single Gale Mantis corpse was missing. Shu Qiao, is this for real? Did that gold coin really kill all these Gale Mantises by himself? The people who came with Su Xiaoqiao stared wide-eyed at the piles of Gale Mantis corpses. Why would I lie to you?
Although I didn't see him do it, he was the only one in Lufeng Valley at the time, and these Gale Mantises were recently killed. Who else could it be? Su Xiaoqiao said. I bet it was a group of them who killed the Gale Mantises. The others left first.
Leaving him to deal with the corpses, one person couldn't possibly have killed this many Gale Mantises. Has definitely boasting. Has definitely bragging.
Several of the people who came with her refused to believe that Han Sen had hunted all those Gale Mantises alone. Chapter 08 Primal Beast Soul. After leaving Falling Wind Valley, Han Sen didn't go straight back to the steel armor shelter.
Had too much fun killing those swift wind mantises. He hadn't left a single one alive. Forget it, he thought. I'll hunt a copper-tooth beast instead. There are plenty of copper-tooth beast packs near the steel armor shelter.
And the odds of finding a mutated one are higher. If I breed a mutated copper-tooth beast, it won't be too suspicious. He found a copper-tooth beast gathering point and looked for a lone beast to take back. However, he couldn't find any lone.
He encountered several small groups of 4 or 5 beasts. Relying on his tough armor, he charged in, slaughtering the others and capturing one alive. Hunting the primal level creature copper-tooth beast yielded no beast soul.
Consuming the flesh may randomly grant 0 to 10 points of primal genes. Hunting the primal level creature copper-tooth beast yielded a primal level copper-tooth beast soul. Consuming the flesh may randomly grant 0 to 10 of primal genes.
Han Sen's widened in disbelief. He had killed 43 swiftwind mantises and thousands of ordinary creatures before, yet hadn't obtained a single beast soul. Had only killed 2 copper-tooth beasts, and he already had a soul fate.
Beast souls, it's all about fate. Han Sen felt a mixture of surprise and joy. Although copper-tooth beast souls were relatively common, that didn't mean they weren't valuable. Copper-tooth beasts themselves were weak among primal level creatures.
But their souls were quite popular. With a thought, a bronze tusk, 2 feet long and bristling like a porcupine's quills, shot forth, transforming into a bronze crescent moon spear that landed in Han Sen's hand.
The crescent moon spear gleamed with a cold bronze light, its crescent-shaped blade exuding a chilling aura that sent shivers down one's spine. Primitive grade copper-tooth beast souls. Weapon type. Han Sen brandished the bronze crescent moon spear a few times,
his movements displaying a spirited energy. His compulsory education had included basic spear techniques, and Han Sen, always fascinated by weaponry, hadn't neglected his gunnery skills. After practicing for a while,
Han Sen put away the bronze crescent moon spear and took a copper-tooth beast back with him. Finding a secluded spot to stow the blood god Black Beetle armor, Han Sen carried the now bound and unconscious copper-tooth beast back to the shelter.
As he approached the shelter's entrance, a group of more than a dozen people charged out, each riding a large soul beast mount. The leader, clad in steel armor with a blood-red sword strapped to his back, rode a mount resembling a 3-horned dinosaur.
His imposing figure drawing envious stares. The steel armor shelter housed 3 powerhouses who aimed for gene god evolution. Their leader, known only as God Emperor, whose real name and identity remained a mystery,
was an absolute authority within the steel armor shelter. Han Sen shifted aside with the copper-tooth beast, intending to let the group pass. However, the leader halted his 3-horned dinosaur mount as he rode past. Bang! God Emperor glanced at Han Sen,
his whip lashing out like a venomous snake, striking Han Sen's shoulders. The copper-tooth beast tumbled to the ground, and Han Sen's clothes were torn, leaving a hideous, swollen, crimson welt across his back, like a monstrous centipede.
Who dares to sell you a primitive level creature? The divine sun glared down at Han Sen, his face cold as he demanded an answer. Within the steel armor shelter, everyone knew the divine sun was pursuing Xuanhuan. Han Sen, the butt madman who had,
inappropriately touched Xuanhuan, was naturally despised by the divine sun. Han Sen's miserable life in the steel armor shelter was largely due to the divine sun. After learning about what happened with Xuanhuan,
the divine sun not only had Han Sen brutally beaten, but he also issued a warning: anyone who dared to trade with Han Sen would be his enemy. A feed to the death. I hunted it myself, Han Sen retorted, his eyes locked on the divine sun, fists clenched.
Yet he remained rooted to the spot. The divine sun not only possessed extremely high gene completion, overwhelming strength and numerous beast souls, but he also had a gang of powerful henchmen. Even if Han Sen risked his life,
he wouldn't be able to harm a single hair on the divine sun's head. Even with the godblood armor, he probably wouldn't even reach him before being killed by those henchmen. The shelter world was different from the Alliance.
There were no laws here, strength was everything. Han Sen's death would mean nothing, especially since the Divine Son was rumored to be from a prominent family in the Alliance. Even if he were killed within the Alliance,
he probably wouldn't face legal consequences. Han Sen wasn't afraid of death, but if he died, leaving Luo Sulan and Han Yan as a widow and orphan, they would likely be bullied mercilessly. If I find out anyone dares to sell you anything, the Divine Son declared,
his gaze sweeping across the crowd at the gate before he rode away, disdaining to even glance at Han Sen again. I guarantee both of you will die a horrible death. But madman, Lu Tianyang sneered at Han Sen, stay out of trouble.
Or I won't mind giving you another beating. He rode his black-horned horse, following the Divine Son and his entourage. Luo Tianyang was the one who had beaten Han Sen on the Divine Son's behalf. He was one of the Divine Son's most trusted confidants.
And they had known each other in the Alliance. Han Sen watched the direction in which the Divine Emperor and his entourage had departed, a cold glint flashing in his eyes, silently.
He picked up the copper-toothed beast that lay on the ground and walked towards the steel armor shelter, ignoring the contemptuous gazes of those around him. Strength. I need more strength. Han Sen's anger burned in his chest.
But if he wanted to fight a group of strong men, his strength was far from enough. But now he had that heaven-defying black crystal, and this was the greatest opportunity. Your Majesty, just kill that boy. Why bother keeping him around as an eyesore?
Lu Tianyang said coldly. The Divine Emperor smiled faintly. Qinsan's personality is too stubborn. She doesn't like others interfering in her affairs. Since she didn't kill Han Sen herself, if I were to kill him, it would only upset her.
Let's just leave it at that. That Xuanhuan is really unappreciative. Your Majesty deigning to pursue her is a blessing she's earned in several lifetimes. Yet she puts on such an airs. If it weren't for your Majesty,
I would have already taken people to destroy her. Zhujian, another of the Divine Emperor's confidants, said, don't underestimate Xuanhuan. Whether in the Alliance or the shelter world, she is a powerful woman. If I can win her over,
it will be of great help to me in both the Alliance and the shelter world. The Divine Emperor's eyes flashed with cold light. But let's leave that aside for now. Hurry to Sunset Slope. Don't let those people from the Quan brothers gang get there first.
We must capture that goblet creature. Chapter 9. The Goblet Creature. Han Sen returned to his room, tied the copper-toothed beast in its cage, and then placed the black crystal beside its mouth.
The copper-toothed beast immediately opened its mouth and greedily swallowed the black crystal in one gulp. Han Sen waited for a day, and the copper-toothed beast indeed changed. Originally, its fur was a grayish-black like a wild boar's,
with only a pair of bronze-colored tusks. Now its body faintly shimmered with a bronze luster, and its pair of bronze tusks had become even brighter. However, this wasn't a mutated copper-toothed beast.
A true mutated copper-toothed beast should be entirely transformed into bronze, like a bronze statue. That's what a mutated copper-toothed beast truly is. While this copper-toothed beast's fur had a hint of bronze sheen, it was only a hint.
Far from a true mutated copper-toothed beast, it seems that evolving from a primitive creature into a mutated creature isn't as simple as a regular creature evolving into a primitive one. A single day isn't enough, Han Sen mused to himself.
After waiting for over 2 days, the bronze sheen on the copper-toothed beast became increasingly intense, but it seemed it wouldn't evolve into a mutated creature anytime soon.
Han Sen decided to let the copper-toothed beast evolve slowly, and prepared to go out and hunt some primitive creatures to earn money. He could also consume some to strengthen his primitive genes, even without using primitive gene evolution.
Accumulating more primitive genes would make the body stronger. This effect also applies to ordinary and mutated genes. If he could bring ordinary, primitive, and mutated genes all to their maximum value of 100 points, even without evolution,
his physical strength would far surpass that of an ordinary person. Han Sen had black crystals. It wouldn't be difficult to bring the 4 types of genes to their maximum values before he collected 100 points of divine genes.
Han Sen wanted to maximize the other 3 gene types as much as possible. Leaving the room and walking down the street of the steel armor shelter, Han Sen felt a strange sense of unease. There seemed to be far fewer people in the steel armor shelter today.
The streets were almost deserted, a stark contrast to the usual bustling scene. What's going on? Passing through the square, Han Sen noticed that there were far fewer vendors, and those remaining were whispering amongst themselves. Hans paused his listening.
Having gleaned the situation, days prior, a new godblood-level creature had been sighted near Sunset Slope. Somehow the 3 major factions of Steel Armor Shelter had learned of it and rushed to the location.
They failed to slay the godblood creature, suffering significant casualties instead. Today, Xuanhuan, Shen Tianzi, and Quanji, the 3 giants of Steel Armor Shelter, had reached an agreement, uniting their forces to hunt the creature.
They'd also recruited numerous lone adventurers and small groups, making it Steel Armor Shelter's largest operation in Xuanhuan. Shen Tianzi and Quanji were determined to succeed. A glint flashed in Han's eyes. He turned and left the city.
Once away from prying eyes, he summoned his Black Armored Beetle soul. transforming it into armor that encased his body. He jogged for over 2 hours, finally arriving at a small stone hill on the west side of Sunset Slope.
After a strenuous climb to the summit, he looked towards Sunset Slope. Over 1,000 people were locked in a fierce battle. Among them a monster half-horse, half-man, with a bull's head wielded a heavy, double-bladed golden axe, tearing through the crowd.
As Hans watched, the monster swung its golden axe at Shen Tianzi. Although Shen Tianzi held a blood-red sword, he dared not block the axe directly. He leaped from his three-horned dinosaur-like mount.
Roar! The monster's axe cleaved the three-horned dinosaur-like soul mount in two. Shen Tianzi was furious, on the verge of vomiting blood, his prized mutated soul mount.
A rare and valuable find easily worth a small Alliance starship was destroyed. How could this godblood creature be so strong? Hans wondered, his heart filled with doubt. The godblood creature carved a path of destruction through the thousands.
None could withstand a single blow from its axe. Even Xuanhuan, Shen Tianzi, and Quan Ji, powerful figures all, dared not face it directly. Alloy arrows and soul-bound arrows alike glanced fiercely off its hide.
With a single swing of its axe, a 3-zhang radius was rendered a death zone, a display of awesome power. This was the godblood creature as Han Sen remembered it. The godblood Black Armored Beetle he had slain was far weaker,
barely distinguishable from a normal Black Armored Beetle. Initially, the crowd had managed to contain the godblood creature, but with Shen Tianzi's mount slain, a crucial barrier was lost. The creature, wielding its golden double but
launched a furious assault, spinning the axe like a golden wheel. Screams of terror and agony filled the air, limbs and blood flying as the godblood creature smashed through the encirclement in the space of a few moments, fleeing towards the mountains.
Reaching the mountain past, the reared back on its hind legs, and let out a roar like a bull before vanishing into the mountain range. Damn it, it wants to run, Shen Tianzi roared, extending a hand to summon a greenhawk soul beast.
It transformed into a green iron bow, settling in his grasp. Then, with another gesture, a fiery 6-winged giant bee materialized, becoming a crimson arrow in his other hand, a godblood-level venomous explosive 6-winged bee soul beast.
Qin Xuan and Quan Ji exclaimed in astonishment. They had hunted the godblood-level venomous explosive 6-winged bee together with Shen Tianzi, finally slaying it with Shen Tianzi delivering the final blow. They hadn't expected him to obtain its soul beast.
That's a godblood-level soul beast. There can't be more than 10 known godblood soul beasts in the entire steel armor shelter, and most of those were left behind by veterans before they entered the second god's shelter. Tianzi, no, that's a one-time use soul beast.
What if you fail to kill it? Lu Tianying called out, trying to stop Shen Tianzi, but it was too late. In a fit of rage, the Divine Emperor knocked an arrow formed from a venomous 6-winged bee onto his iron bow, drawing it to full strength.
It transformed into a red streak of light, shooting towards the blood god creature that had already reached the mountain pass. Bang! Sensing the danger,
the blood god creature had only just turned its head when the venomous 6-winged bee arrow exploded into its chest. The impact was like an explosion, tearing open its chest cavity. Spraying blood and viscera across the ground, the creature collapsed.
Clearly on the verge of death. You dare kill my mount, you shall not live, the Divine Emperor roared, holding his bow high, an air of imperial dominance that sent shivers down the spines of everyone present, witnessing the stunned expressions of the crowd.
Even Xuan momentarily lost her composure. The Divine Emperor was inwardly gloating when, suddenly, a blue shadow shot down from the sky, impaling itself into the dying blood god creature, instantly extinguishing its last spark of life. Then
a golden figure burst down from a nearby rocky hill, reaching the blood god creature in an instant. He grabbed the fallen golden double-bladed axe, hoisted it onto his shoulder, and turned to flee into the mountains. Big bro!
Su Zhouqiao instantly recognized Han Sen's unique golden armor and cried out in surprise. Chapter Xuanhuan, the bloodthirsty slaughterer. Hidden atop the rocky hill, Han Sen saw the blood god creature running towards him.
He was hesitating whether to retreat when he saw the Divine Emperor shoot it down with an arrow, leaving it barely alive. Suddenly emboldened, he charged down from the hill, summoning his bronze crescent spear. He hurled it like a javelin at the dying creature,
striking it squarely in the chest wound and finishing off the blood god creature. Slaying the blood god-level creature, the bloodthirsty slaughterer yielded a blood god-level bloodthirsty slaughterer beast soul.
Consuming the bloodthirsty slaughterer's flesh can randomly grant 0 to 10 god genes. A voice rang out in his mind, making Han Sen's happy heart nearly burst. A divine blood-level beast soul had actually shot another divine blood-level beast soul.
He could hardly believe it. The odds were incredibly low. However, Han Sen didn't have time to celebrate. The blood slaughters corpse was too large to carry, but the golden giant axe was a different story. The creatures of the shelter could,
through special means, nurture treasures that weren't inherently their own. Humans called these treasures artifacts, while artifacts couldn't transform like beast souls and were used like ordinary items.
Some high-level creatures could nurture artifacts that were no worse than beast souls. The divine blood creature had wielded the golden giant axe with unmatched power, shattering ordinary beast soul weapons and mounts with a single blow.
It was clearly a superb divine blood artifact. Han Sen's initial goal had been the golden giant axe. Obtaining the blood slaughterer's beast soul was a complete windfall. Watching Han Sen lug the golden giant axe into the mountains, everyone was stunned.
FQ, the divine son reacted, roaring in fury as he summoned a black horned horse and chased after Han Sen frantically. The divine son's followers also reacted, urging their mounts to pursue Han Sen with all their might.
Their angry roars and curses blending into a cacophony. Han Sen hadn't expected the golden giant axe to be so incredibly heavy. He already possessed 8 points of golden genes, making him significantly stronger.
But carrying the axe made even walking difficult, let alone running. Seeing the blood slaughterer wield it so effortlessly, he hadn't imagined it would be this heavy. How could he possibly escape carrying it?
Han Sen looked back and saw the divine son and his followers already closing in, less than 500 meters away. He couldn't carry it any longer, but Han Sen couldn't bear to leave such a top-tier divine blood artifact behind.
Suddenly remembering the bloodthirsty slaughter he had just obtained, he quickly glanced at it, his face instantly brightening. Divine blood grade bloodthirsty slaughterer beast soul, fusion transformation type, without a second thought.
Han Sen summoned the bloodthirsty slaughterer beast soul. A majestic light figure charged forth, the form of the bloodthirsty slaughterer, only lacking its golden giant axe. The bloodthirsty slaughterer beast soul surged towards Han Sen.
Instantly merging with him, Han Sen's body underwent a bizarre transformation, instantly changing into the bloodthirsty slaughterer's form. His black insect armor also changed shape, tightly enveloping Han Sen in his new form.
Not a rigid artificial armor, its form adapted to the body. After the fusion transformation, Han Sen felt his body brimming with power. The golden giant axe, which he had barely been able to carry, now felt weightless.
With a movement of his 4 legs he sprinted away, his speed astonishing. Han Sen unleashed his full speed, charging into the mountains. In a moment he had distanced himself from the divine son and the others, leaving them far behind.
He vanished into the depths of the towering mountain range. Everyone was stunned. The changes had been too swift. By the time they reacted, many looked at the divine son and his group, still desperately chasing into the mountains, with strange expressions.
That suddenly appeared fellow not only snatched the golden giant axe, but also, after killing the divine blood creature, obtained its beast soul, all of which should have belonged to the divine son. My god, who was that guy?
To snatch something from the jaws of a tiger and actually succeed. Forget the golden giant axe artifact, just that divine blood beast soul alone would make him rich. Money. Even with money, can you buy a godblood soul beast? Ha ha.
The divine son is going to be so angry, hell, cough up blood. A godblood soul beast, that's a godblood soul beast! They should all have been his. And yet someone else snatched them away! The arrow he used just now.
It could one time use godblood soul beast arrow. He's so rich, he actually used something like that. The result, haha. I can't. I think the divine son isn't just going to cough up blood, he's going to go insane with rage.
I never expected to see a godblood soul beast appear. That guy is incredibly lucky to kill one himself, let alone the fact that he couldn't kill it. Even if he could, killing dozens of godblood creatures wouldn't necessarily produce a single soul beast, and yet.
He just made one shot and bam, he's got everything. Who the hell is that guy? Do we have someone like that in our steel armor sanctuary? I think I heard someone yell Brother B just now. I wonder if they were shouting at him. Brother B, haha, that's a good name.
It's really badass. Less than an hour later, the divine son returned with his men, looking grim. Everyone guessed it. The mountains are winding and twisting, just disappearing into the deep mountains and forests.
There's no way the divine son and his men could find them. After the divine son returned, the first thing he did was drag Su Xiaoqiao out. His shout of Brother B caused trouble. Su Xiaoqiao had no choice but to recount his encounter with Han Sen in detail.
However, it was essentially pointless. He knew nothing beyond Han Sen's self-proclaimed name, Gold Coin. Although the God Emperor remained unconvinced, Su Xiaoqiao was, after all, Qin Shuan's person. He couldn't resort to torture.
So he could only lead his men back to the steel armor shelter in a rage, sealing it off completely. He vowed to find Gold Coin and tear him to pieces. While most people were unfamiliar with the name Gold Coin, Guess name had spread like wildfire. For a time,
Gi, the God Emperor, the God Blood creatures, and God Blood souls became the hottest topics within the steel armor shelter.
This episode is complete. Welcome to subscribe, turn on the small bell. Forward, please leave your comments. I will continue to update the content behind.